Avoid these home audio devices in 2025 because some of them collect far more than your voice. The danger is not bad sound. It is the silent flow of data leaving your home and entering servers you never see. Convenience feels helpful, yet surveillance hides inside the same design. Amazon Echo devices built their empire on simplicity. Say the wake word and the speaker listens. Ask a question and the cloud answers. But the story behind that convenience is far less comforting. Independent investigations discovered that nearly 30% of Alexa activations happen accidentally. And that number becomes even more alarming when you consider where these devices are placed: kitchens, bedrooms, home offices, children's rooms. Every unintended activation captures background conversations that were never meant to leave the house. Families have reported moments where the device lights up without anyone speaking. Other times, audio snippets appear in the history log despite no one calling Alexa at all. And because Amazon stores these recordings in the cloud until the user manually deletes them, a single accident can stay archived for years. The concern deepens when you look at what happens to those recordings after they leave your home. Past reports confirmed that human reviewers analyzed audio samples to improve voice accuracy. That means ordinary conversations, arguments, or personal details could be heard by third-party workers without your knowledge. Even more troubling, security researchers documented cases where deleted voice clips remained accessible due to delayed server updates. You think the file is gone, but the cloud has not caught up. That kind of lag becomes a real problem when the information sitting there is private. And all of this creates a simple, chilling question. If this is the device millions trust the most, what does that say about everything else sitting on store shelves? If that level of cloud retention worries you, the next device raises even stronger concerns because of how deeply it connects to your personal accounts. Google Nest and Google Home operate on the most powerful data engine in the world. Google already knows what you search, where you go, what you buy, and which videos you watch. When you add a smart speaker to that ecosystem, the data becomes even more personal because it now comes from your voice. Google Assistant keeps transcripts of interactions by default, and early reports uncovered that contractors reviewed anonymized audio clips to refine recognition models. But users quickly learned that even anonymized audio can contain names, locations, or sensitive discussions. Studies also found that these speakers activate without the wake word more often than competitors, especially in loud rooms. That means the device can capture fragments of conversations while you are cooking, cleaning, or watching TV. The concern grows because Google's system merges categories of information. Voice data interacts with location history, advertising profiles, and search patterns in ways the typical user never sees. Privacy groups warn that this fusion builds detailed personal maps that can reveal routines, habits, and preferences with unsettling accuracy. And because Google connects to Nest cameras, thermostats, and door sensors, a single smart speaker can act as a bridge between your voice and your entire home network. It creates a picture far more complete than most people ever intended. Google may collect more categories of data, but what comes next enters a different level since it has faced official regulatory scrutiny. Apple HomePod and HomePod Mini present themselves as the safer alternative: stronger encryption, stricter policies, cleaner branding. And while Apple does maintain better privacy controls than many rivals, the issues that do exist are still significant. Apple admitted that less than 1% of Siri audio was reviewed by human evaluators before the practice was suspended after public backlash. While that number sounds small, the scale of Apple's user base makes even a fraction enormous. Internal documents also revealed that Siri often wakes up due to words that merely resemble the wake phrase. The device does not need you to say, "Hey Siri," perfectly. It simply needs enough of a match to trigger recording. And that ambiguity has led to unplanned captures while people watch TV, talk to pets, or chat with family. Encryption is strong, but retention policies are less clear. Researchers note that Apple stores audio in encrypted form, yet the company provides limited details on how long some categories of recordings remain on servers. And when users rely on multiple Apple devices synced through iCloud, it becomes difficult to trace exactly where each recording is stored. Stronger safety practices do not erase the fact that unintended audio still reaches remote servers, and users often remain unaware of how much has been collected. Apple stays strict with encryption, yet the next category of devices involves ecosystems where regulations are not always as transparent. Baidu Xiaodu smart speakers dominate the Chinese market, and the scale alone creates a different kind of risk. While Western brands face constant public scrutiny, Baidu's devices operate in an environment with fewer disclosures about how data is processed or stored. Reports from Chinese tech outlets describe large-scale audio harvesting for voice training models that may include environmental sounds, not just spoken commands. Users have no clear insight into how long recordings remain on servers or who reviews them. Xiaodu also connects directly with Baidu payment tools, shopping accounts, and home automation systems, meaning a single voice command could reveal behavioral patterns far more sensitive than a simple search query. Privacy researchers note that when audio data merges with purchasing history or smart home controls, the resulting profile becomes incredibly detailed. It is no longer just what you said to the device, but when you said it, what you bought afterward, and which appliances you interacted with at the same time. That kind of multi-layer data mapping creates a level of exposure few consumers fully understand. Baidu raises concerns due to opaque systems, but the next one is even more deeply connected to online commerce platforms. Alibaba Tmall Genie sits at the center of one of the world's largest consumer ecosystems. It pulls information from shopping behavior, payment history, and personal profiles to personalize recommendations. Chinese consumer groups have already raised alarms about home recording data linking to predictive shopping analytics. That means something you say casually while cooking or discussing finances could influence the suggestions shown on your digital storefront. Tmall Genie also relies heavily on cloud processing in overseas data centers, raising questions about how many hands your voice data passes through before returning as a simple answer. Xiaomi smart speakers live inside one of the most extensive IoT networks on the planet, and that scale alone turns a simple audio device into a data collector woven throughout your home. The My Home ecosystem connects lights, cameras, plugs, vacuums, locks, thermostats, fitness bands, phones, routers, and just about every category of smart hardware you can think of. When you place a Xiaomi speaker in the middle of that environment, you are not just using it to play music. You are allowing it to sit inside a mesh of devices that exchange constant signals. Xiaomi collects usage logs, Wi-Fi analytics, and detailed voice command data to optimize performance. Yet the concern is not just what Xiaomi openly collects. Researchers found that several Mi IoT devices send metadata even when idle. Not recordings, but device fingerprints, model identifiers, connection timestamps, and local environment details that continually leak outward. Cybersecurity audits have also flagged cross-device tracking behavior. When multiple Mi devices communicate, the system can map how often they activate and which routines they follow. This creates a behavioral portrait that is not limited to your voice. It includes movement, schedule, energy usage, and household patterns. And although Xiaomi insists that anonymization protects users, analysts argue that consistent metadata points can re-identify a household over time. The issue is not a single speaker. It is the quiet connection of many devices feeding the same cloud. Xiaomi has wide IoT reach, but the next brand has faced some of the strongest geopolitical scrutiny of any electronics manufacturer. Huawei sound speakers operate under a global shadow. Multiple countries have restricted or banned Huawei infrastructure due to national security concerns, and that scrutiny inevitably spills over into consumer devices. Huawei's smart speakers use AI voice, services that rely on remote cloud processing. This means your voice recordings, including raw audio clips, must leave the device and travel to processing centers that may not be located in your region. And because Huawei products often integrate with carriers and Huawei cloud accounts, the information collected can interact with broader user profiles that include text logs, app usage, and device behavior. Privacy researchers warn that Huawei devices regularly request more permissions than other speakers. Contact lists, call logs, location data, and system diagnostics are sometimes included in requested access. While many users simply tap Accept, these permissions allow the speaker to interact with information totally unrelated to music or voice commands. And because international scrutiny surrounds how Huawei equipment routes data through global networks, no consumer can fully confirm where their voice clips travel after processing. It creates a chain of uncertainty that grows longer with every command. Huawei cases are serious, yet the next company has been heavily criticized for collecting personal data from nearly all its platforms. Meta Portal audio devices represent a uniquely concerning category because they are tied directly to Facebook accounts. Facebook built its business on collecting, analyzing, and monetizing user behavior, and that history follows Portal devices into the home. When a user speaks to Portal, the device hears more than a command. It hears tone, environment, noise patterns, and emotional cues that can all feed profiling models. Analysts warn that voice activity, call behavior, and even idle interactions can influence targeted advertising. This is not speculation. Meta has repeatedly acknowledged how deeply its platform analyzes user behavior. The biggest concern is Meta's record. The Cambridge Analytica scandal revealed how sensitive data can be harvested, repackaged, and misused when oversight fails. Portal devices include microphones and cameras that integrate with Messenger and WhatsApp. Even though Meta insists that recordings remain private, users are not wrong to question whether a company with this history should operate microphones inside their living rooms. And while Portal devices promise encryption, the data pathways behind Facebook's ecosystem remain complex and difficult for average users to audit. Meta relies on user identity, but the next brand relies on mass-scale smart home integration that exposes even more layers of personal behavior. Samsung SmartThings speakers illustrate how privacy risks grow when audio data merges with full home automation. Samsung collects extensive device analytics, including room acoustic mapping data that identifies how sound travels inside your home. When Bixby is enabled, voice interactions also travel through Samsung's cloud, but SmartThings goes much further. It connects to thousands of devices: door sensors, light bulbs, cameras, refrigerators, washing machines, and thermostats all live under one roof. When a smart speaker sits at the center of that network, every voice command can be linked to a cascade of device activity. Security researchers have found vulnerabilities in older SmartThings hubs that allowed unauthorized access. Weak credentials or outdated firmware created pathways for outsiders to observe device states, trigger actions, or intercept communication. While these issues were eventually patched, the existence of such vulnerabilities in systems designed to connect entire homes introduces a level of risk many users overlook. When a speaker can map when the door opens, when the lights turn on, or when the TV activates, it sees more than your voice. It sees your routine. Samsung maps whole home activity, but what comes next involves third-party hardware that uses someone else's assistant without the same transparency. Lenovo Smart Display speakers enter the conversation with a different kind of complexity. They rely entirely on Google Assistant, which means Google's data rules apply to every spoken word. And because Lenovo adds its own diagnostic and device analytics on top of Google's collection, two corporate ecosystems share access to interaction logs. Developers have shown that Google Assistant devices often capture more ambient noise than expected, especially when placed near televisions or conversations with overlapping audio. These accidental captures end up in cloud logs, even when the user thought the device was inactive. Lenovo devices send performance metrics and usage diagnostics to Lenovo servers, meaning the audio path can split between two companies. While neither claims to misuse recordings, the mere fact that logs and metadata travel to multiple destinations increases exposure. Each server is another point of vulnerability. Each data pipeline is another angle for analysis. And because these displays include screens for video calls, reminders, and visual prompts, the device has a more complete picture of what happens in front of it compared to a simple cylindrical speaker. Lenovo involves two corporate ecosystems at once, but the next category is even more unpredictable because of how cheaply it is manufactured. Generic Alexa-enabled third-party speakers look harmless, yet they introduce one of the most overlooked privacy risks in the entire smart audio market. These devices promise Alexa access at a cheaper price, but that lower cost comes with serious trade-offs. While your voice still travels directly into Amazon's cloud, the hardware sitting in your home may lack the fundamental protections that brand-name devices include by default. Cybersecurity labs, testing off-brand speakers, discovered basic security flaws, such as unencrypted Wi-Fi credentials stored inside the device. Anyone with brief physical access could retrieve them, and in some cases, hackers could extract them remotely with simple scripts. This is not an exotic danger. It is a practical vulnerability that has already been demonstrated in controlled tests. Because these devices rely on small-scale manufacturers, firmware updates are inconsistent. Some never update at all. Others push updates irregularly, leaving long gaps where known vulnerabilities remain exposed. And since many of these speakers reuse generic Android or Linux builds, outdated libraries remain inside the system far longer than they should. The result is a device that listens, records, and transmits audio while lacking the security shield users assume is protecting them. You get all the risks of a major cloud provider combined with the weaknesses of a small manufacturer. And that combination sits in your living room pretending to be harmless. If unregulated third-party devices feel unsafe, the next brand reaches into smart home markets where privacy protection laws are still developing. So, subscribe, like, and comment why you like this video for a chance to win a new Apple MacBook. Tencent Tingting smart speakers widen the scope of concern because they exist inside an ecosystem built around WeChat, one of the most data-rich platforms in the world. Tencent collects large-scale voice samples to advance speech recognition, yet the company provides limited details about how long these recordings remain stored or how they are categorized. Unlike Western companies that publish transparency reports and deletion policies, Tencent's disclosures remain minimal. Privacy researchers argue that such opacity makes it difficult for users to understand how their voices are being processed or reused. What makes Tingting particularly concerning is its deep integration with WeChat. This means the speaker can interact with chat logs, payment tools, social connections, contact lists, and personal identification data embedded in the app. In practical terms, this creates the possibility of linking your spoken commands with your financial history, your social interactions, and your daily patterns. Privacy groups warn that this level of cross-platform data mapping can generate an extremely detailed profile of a user's life, far beyond casual expectations. And because Tencent operates under regulatory environments with fewer public checks, users have little visibility into how these profiles are created or stored. Tencent links your voice with your social circle, but the next brand has faced separate concerns related to international data flows. Yandex Station smart speakers operate in a region where data protection laws differ significantly from those in the European Union or North America. Yandex devices send voice clips to servers located in Russia, where privacy regulations grant broader access to government agencies. Although Yandex anonymizes recordings to train its voice models, researchers note that even anonymized audio can contain personal clues such as names, routines, and identifiable background noises. These fragments become part of long-term datasets used to refine the assistant's understanding of human speech. Security analysts warn that because of Russia's legal structure, stored voice data could become subject to government access requirements. Users may believe their recordings are private, yet the legal environment may not guarantee that privacy. And while Yandex promises strong encryption, those assurances do not override the fundamental issue. The storage location and regulatory framework matter. When your voice crosses geographic and legal borders, you lose visibility into who can request access and under what circumstances it might be granted. Yandex highlights legal exposure, but the next brand introduces a different risk since it is tied to smart home automation hubs. Ecobee smart speakers represent a subtle but far-reaching concern because they place microphones in rooms where people do not usually expect audio devices. Ecobee thermostats and remote sensors integrate microphones directly into their hardware, which means audio collection can occur in hallways, bedrooms, dining rooms, and even upstairs landings. Unlike traditional speakers that sit in a visible location, Ecobee devices blend into the environment, often mounted on walls or placed near doorways where families speak casually. And because Ecobee routes voice processing through Amazon Alexa, Amazon receives audio captured by a device that users may not consciously view as a smart speaker. Privacy reviews have raised questions about how Ecobee handles storage of audio collected through remote sensors. While the company offers general explanations, it does not always specify how long sensor audio may persist or how it is tagged within the system. And because these sensors form a network throughout the home, they can capture voice patterns in multiple locations. This builds a more complete picture of your household's routines. Even ordinary activities such as late-night conversations, children's movements, or phone calls in passing become part of the device's acoustic environment. Ecobee spreads microphones throughout the home, but the final entry raises the highest concern because of how rapidly it expanded with minimal oversight. Off-brand smart home speakers sold on major marketplaces represent the most unpredictable privacy threat in the entire category. Consumer protection agencies investigated these devices and found that nearly 55% transmitted unsupervised data to unknown servers. These servers were often registered in regions with little regulatory oversight, meaning users had no way to know who received their audio metadata or why it was being collected. The low-cost manufacturing process behind these devices leads to outdated Android builds, abandoned software, and unpatched vulnerabilities. Researchers discovered hard-coded backdoors embedded into some firmware versions. These backdoors allowed remote access without the user's permission. In certain cases, the backdoor credentials were identical across thousands of units, making them trivial to exploit. And because these are mass-produced, no-name products, there is no support channel, no update system, and no accountability. They arrive on your doorstep fully capable of transmitting data outward, while offering no transparency inward. It is the purest form of silent risk. No brand reputation is damaged when something goes wrong. No public apology is issued. The device simply listens, logs, and sends. This category represents the reason why privacy advocates warn consumers to be cautious with bargain smart devices. When a product costs less than a meal, the real price is often paid in data. And unlike established brands that face scrutiny from regulators and journalists, these manufacturers operate without meaningful oversight. There are no press releases documenting their policies. There are no public reports addressing vulnerabilities. There is only a device that hears everything and a server that stores whatever it sends.